So you have to go through a lot of stages just to be the winner, not just in preparing yourself, but to also compete with others as well. Now, why do you join this webinar? I mean, yeah, why do you join this webinar? What is your motivation? Would anyone like to voice out their opinions? Or anyone like to share?
How to win the contest.
Okay, one of it is how to win a contest. And any other opinion besides how to win a contest?
Hi, Tifa here.
Yes.
Want to learn from the club best speaker.
Okay, well, learn from club best. Well, I wouldn't say I'm the best, but I'm say I am seasoned. Yes. Okay, so those are like one or two of the motivations. So yes, maybe you might want to win the upcoming contest. That's why you join this webinar. You may want to gain a new skill in presenting speeches probably, or maybe just to pass time since it's a break for students, or maybe other reasons as well. But most importantly is that from what I do my research on the website, before I join this contest, I will always go online and search what are the tips to win in a international speech contest. And this quote is something that I remember until this day, which is joining a contest is not just about winning, but we want to learn from the best as well and show to the audience our growth, how we have spent so long in Toastmasters, and the competition is one of the ways we can show people how much we have developed, how much we've grown from maybe you're not that good in presenting in front of a large audience to someone who is comfortable with presenting in a large audience setting. So right here, I'm showing is the judge guide and ballot. I think this judge's guide and ballot is something that can help you to win in the competition. Not exactly win, but at least you have an idea of how the judges would judge you and score you. And if you notice that the content takes up 50%, and it involves speech development, how is your speech structure, the organization, for example, you have the opening, the body, the ending, and what are the materials you have to support your points in the speech. Effectiveness, whether you manage to achieve the purpose of your speech, like what is the message that you're trying to share with the audiences, and did you manage to capture the interest of your audience through your content? And lastly is the speech value, how original the idea is. And then you have delivery, which is 30%, including your physical, which is how you dress, your appearance, the body language, how you move your body, the speaking area, whether you can utilize it fully, the voice, projecting it clearly or having vocal varieties in it, manner, to show people that you're very enthusiastic with your speech. Language, which is the last component, 20%, is how appropriate are the words that you use to present your speech. And lastly is the correctness in terms of grammar, pronunciation, and word selections. If you ask me, I think content is the one part where most of us can actually try to get as full marks as we can, because everyone has our own original ideas. If you actually mastered in creating a good content, I think you've already got yourself like half a marks, and the remaining half marks is just practicing your delivery skills and also practicing your language. And that way, I think, well, you're almost there. Maybe you can already get like one of the 3 spots. And tonight, this is where I will be going through, or maybe going through the content and delivery. Language, I would say, listen more and practice more. So now we're moving on to our first session, which is called preparing script. And I've prepared an activity for everyone to participate in. This first activity is called Tell Me Something Interesting About Yourself. You may start with your name, or you can tell a fun fact about yourself, maybe places you travel, or what you like to do as your hobby. I'll give you guys 1 or 2 minutes to think about it. And after 1 or 2 minutes, if you guys are ready, you may choose to say you want to present. All right, so our 1 to 2 minutes starts now. Okay, so 1 minute is already up. Anyone would like to share with me something interesting about yourself? Okay, Minkang, maybe you'd like to share?
Okay, my name is Bin Kang from the Department of Physics. One fun fact about myself is I actually dream every single day. I think I never miss for the past few months. So I have a dream journal to keep track of what I dream, if I remember. So hopefully the dream will somehow tell me how to be a billionaire. Thank you.
Dream to be the millionaire. Interesting dream. I hope I can also do that. Anyone else would like to share something interesting about yourself? Okay, Lauren.
So, as you can see on the screen, my name, I just put it as Lorraine De Simon, but actually, my full name is Lorraine Jinjume De Simon. But I was previously known as Lorraine Jinjume Melvin Gregory De Simon. So why I changed my name to a shorter name? Well, apparently there's something called bureaucracy. So when I registered my name for the first time to get my blue IC, apparently the officer said that the name that I selected, which is Lorraine Jinjume De Simon, is not acceptable to the standard of registering a name. I should actually include my father's name. After debating with the officer, and the officer still couldn't accept the selected name I wanted, I ended up with Lorraine Jinjume Melvin Gregory De Simon for about 2 years until I decided to go to the head office of the registry of the nation, and they say actually Lorraine Jinjume De Simon is perfectly fine. Who on earth told you to actually add your father's name into your IC? And yeah, I actually had a name, a very long name, for 2 good years before I changed it officially on my IC. Thank you, and back to you, Joshua.
Thank you. That was really wonderful. I quite enjoyed this story about how you go from such a long name to such a short name. So thanks, Lauren. And lastly, you can have one more speaker, Jejun.
Can I please, Robin?
Sure, but Ravin, maybe later, because actually this is only the first part of the activity. I have a second part in store for you. All right, so Jejun.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Zijun. A fun fact about myself is I good in olahraga, but bad in sports. Bad in the ball sports like the badminton or the tennis. Those. The memorable thing I have done is me and my friend. We go to the nursery and to pluck the papaya and the mango during our matriculation at 3 a.m. Very adventurous. Thank you.
In Cantonese, I think that would be called as stealing the chicken in the middle of the night. Yes. Okay, so everyone seems to have something interesting about themselves, something that they are memorable with. Now, what if we change into this? Tell me something interesting about another person in this meeting. Can you do that? Maybe Ravin, just now you said you like to try. Would you like to try this one?
Sure. I find Lorraine Desimond very interesting. And the reason is exactly as she explained, her name, which as per her statement, the registrar of births refused to accept the name without the father's name. I find it a little strange, but anyway, she went through that successfully, and here she is, a hero in her own right. Thank you, and back to you, sir.
Thank you, Ravin. I also see Iktifa raising her hand. Iktifa, would you like to try?
Hi everyone, I'm Itifa. So I need to share something interesting about someone else, right? So I'll choose Min Kang. What's so interesting about him is he likes to do robotic stuff. Back to you, Joshua.
All right, thank you, Iktifa. Anyone else would like to try this part of the activity? Telling something interesting about another person in this meeting. Anyone else would like to try? Maybe Bindu or Ian or Bunting or Wei Kang or maybe Alvin. Would you like to try, Alvin?
All right, I'll try.
Okay.
For something interesting. Yeah. Something interesting about another person. Yeah, I think the interesting part is where Ifa, I think he wants to leave UMTMC soon, which for my personal interest, I hope he won't leave us so soon. And of course, Joshua, I hope you won't leave us so soon as well. But unfortunately, you guys have your own life that you guys want to pursue. And as of course, as a member of UMTMC, I hope you guys stay. Yeah.
Well, some journeys have to end so that we can open a new chapter in our life, Alvin. So, as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, the first activity was much more simpler. Agreed? In telling something interesting about yourself, because you know yourself more than others. Except for your mother, of course, your mother knows you more than you know yourself. But telling something interesting about another person, that is something that unless you did your research on that person well, you can say it, or you just met them and you get to know them as soon as possible so that you can get maybe a little bit of information. Or you don't even know them and you do not have the content you need to present in this case. So this is where I would move through into how can you prepare for a contest script. Similarly to what our activity is just now, when I say, tell me something interesting about yourself, we are most certainly confident we have a lot of ideas, content inside our mind. But telling something interesting about another person, you don't really have the content. So you're not really confident in saying, oh, I want to tell something interesting about a person, unless you have done your research, you know that person, and you find he's really interesting, then voila, you're just like an open water tap. The water just sprouts out from your mouth. So how can we, as a contestant, prepare for a contest speech? Firstly, find a topic that you're confident with. For example, back when I joined for the Toastmasters Club International Speech Contest, I choose a topic about which university to go to, because I find that that story resonates with me strongly, and that I'm confident the audiences will relate with my story, because they are students, I'm a student, they will understand what are the difficulties I'm going through during that stage. And later on, when I went to the area contest, I thought maybe not many people would relate with that topic about choosing which university to go to. So I wasn't confident with that one. I ended up changing it into the newspaper, which I believe is suitable for a wider range of audience. So always find a topic that you're confident with, something that you can talk on forever and ever, because I think then you have more things to share with your audiences. Second one is know your audience, which is what I mentioned just now. If your audience is a university students, perhaps you may want to give a speech that is relatable with students at that age, at the teenager age. But if your audience is wider, general, composing of people, like composing of students or people from the workforce, if you want to find something or find a topic which is more general, like love, family, friendships, health, which is the in thing nowadays, health. So always know your audience so that they are more interested to know more about your speech. They want to listen in more to. So that's the second point. The third point, include stories and humor. Personally, I like to include stories in my speech. I like to present them in a story format, because in that way people can follow me through my journey of how I started off, or how I faced off with a problem. Say, for example, I have no idea which university to go to. So what is the methods that I take to select which university to go to? And lastly, what was the university I went to? So that in that way, there's a story, and people would be more interested to listen. And in between the stories, I will add in some humors to keep my audience engaged, to keep them stay awake in the speech, so that they do not fall away from it. That is my way of preparing my contest, to include stories and humor, because I think stories is something people like to hear. Even in gossips, when there's a story, people would want to listen more to it. So that is my third point. My fourth point is the message of the story is just as important. Say, for example, in the area contest, and I was presenting on the newspapers, I was really trying to figure out what kind of message should I share to the audiences. Because a story with a message is much more interesting to listen to, rather than something that is just blank and there's nothing much in it. With a message, people would finally realize, oh, now I understand why is it that you tell us this story? What is the meaning behind that story? So when I presented my newspaper story, at first it seems like a funny, a humorous kind of speech. But what I want to let people know is that the reason why I read newspaper is so that I can get a complete package of information. So because I want people to remember back how life was in the past. It was something simple with just a newspaper. It's not as easy like nowadays, where you can get a news from the internet. Back then, everything was just from a newspaper. And lastly is do research if necessary to get the facts right. If, say, you get the wrong facts, and if people really enjoyed your speech, they remembered your quote, and they share it with another person may say, hey, this quote or this fact that you mentioned is wrong. And then that's where you get arguments, or maybe you might feel embarrassed because you're sharing it to almost everyone. So do the research if necessary to get your facts right. So, and another thing I'd like to share about preparing a script is this structure of a speech. So there are 3 points, which is the opening, the body, and the closing. Most of the time, I would start off from the opening and then to the body and to the closing. But that is when I have a topic in mind. So you can start off with a topic in mind. For example, a newspaper in mind. And then you go on with the opening, which is the problem statement. Problem statement could be, nowadays people don't read newspapers. Oh, and I'm the only one who's reading it. So why is it that I still continue to read newspapers? When you're talking about problem statement, we can use the 5 W's and 1 H, the who, what, when, where, why, and how. Those are problem statements. And for attention grabber, you may want to come up with either a quote or maybe something catchy to catch your audience attention. For example, back in the division contest, I noticed one of the speakers, he gave a quote by Samuel Beckett saying, "Ever tried, ever failed, no matter. Try again, fail better." And that quote was the attention grabber, and it stuck to me until this day. Once I finish with the opening, I move on to the body. The body is where you would want to elaborate 3 points. For each point, there will be an extra explanation followed by an example. The example can be either stories or a metaphor. Say, for example, my newspaper. I say my problem statement will be, people nowadays don't read newspapers, except for me. So why do I still continue reading newspaper? First point, because of my grandfather. My grandfather is the one who shared with me the joy of reading newspaper. Elaboration. So grandfather is the point. Elaboration is, he shared with me the newspaper. And what's the example? The example is that he shared with me through the comics. So by reading the comics, I enjoyed the newspaper, and that's why I invested in it. So that is one way of doing a body. You connect it with the problem statement by giving out one point or one reason, and you elaborate on that reason by providing it with examples. And lastly, the closing. You want to link it back to the start. For example, again, my problem statement, I still read newspapers while others don't read it. Why? Because my grandfather, he shared with me the joy of reading newspapers. How? Through the comics section. And because the comics was colorful, I continue to read it until this day and was heavily invested in it. So linking it back to the start, that is the reason why I still read newspapers to this day. And you may want to end it with a bang, which means you want to leave something memorable for the audience to remember, because you start with an opening, you manage to grab the attention of the audiences, but as you slowly progress through the bodies and all the points, people would, the energy level that we had in the beginning will slowly start to go downhill. And if you do include some other interesting like props or body movements or humor, the energy level would be able to climb back up, but not all the way up as a start. It just climb back up. So that's why we end with a bang, to bring it back up to the same level as the opening. For example, when again in my area contest, how I end it with a bang is that I prepared a prop, which is the newspaper, and I pretend that I'm reading the newspaper while asking the audiences, who still reads newspapers today? Raise your hands. And I quickly flip it down, and I see only 1 or 2 people raise their hands. And immediately I give a very exaggerated expression and saying, what? No, but so few people read newspapers. And I end it with a bang. Well, this is just one example. You may want to figure out what is your technique to end it with a bang, depending on your story of how you want to do it. So this is the entire structure of the story. Most commonly, people would start off with the content. They'll start off with their content, and then towards the end, and then only they go back to the opening. Why? Because the content is the juicy part, it's the part where everyone will listen. With the content, you would have a ending in your mind. You know how your story is going to should end. And then only you go back to the opening. I give you an example. Again, a newspaper. I'm sorry if but I think like the newspaper is one of the also memorable things that I did during the area contest. The newspaper, there's a lot of things I can talk about newspaper. I can talk about why, I can talk about how it all began, what are things I learned from newspaper, and how is it that I transition from, say, reading a comics to reading something more informational, something related with what's happening around the world. And then towards the closing, I can say, after reading all of this, I realize that I get more information through reading a newspaper than playing in the fields. So how do I link it back, bring this closing back to the problem statement? And also you can look through your bodies and try to connect the dots and see what is the best way to create an opening. What kind of problem statement can you say? And in this case, it will be why I still read newspapers to this day. So that is an example. Okay. So before I move on to session 2, is everyone doing okay after the first session? So far, so good? All right, good. If you have questions, you can leave it towards the end. Towards the end, there is a Q&A session where you can ask me any questions that you have related with this webinar. So, okay, we'll now move on to the second session, expressing yourself. We have a second activity, which is imagine coming back home from work or school. Your parents, or maybe friends or family members ask you, how is your day? How would you express yourself? For me, I would say, just like that. Yeah, typical way of saying just like that, okay. But what about you guys? What about the audiences? How would you respond to this question? How is your day? If your parents or friends ask you.
Very good.
Yeah, very good. It's like also another typical way of answering. How is your day? And anyone else would like to share? How is your day?
Joshua,
Yes.
a patient died. I'm terrible now.
Sorry.
A patient died. I'm terrible now.
I'm so sorry for that one. Hopefully he's
No. You were asking that how's your day, right?
Yeah.
So there's one day where one of the patients that take care of passed away. So itulah.
So you're trying to express how sad it is that one of the patient died. Is it?
Yes.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so that is also one way you notice how by saying a patient died and suddenly the way he expressed it, it can also affect the mood of the audiences around us as well. If you notice it. So anyone else would like to share? How is your day? Maybe Junho would like to share.
Oh, I would. If for today, I would answer not too bad. Managed to get out from work at 6.
Okay, that's great. I hope you're not late for work.
Definitely not.
Okay, so that is one way. How would you express yourself? If something tragic does happens, of course we would, try to convey that emotion. But if it's a normal day, then I guess there really isn't much we can talk about. We just say, okay, that's it. But did you know that actually even ordinary life, we can also try to we can also present it in a kind of funny way. For example, when I used to have a roommate who always loved to ask me this question: how's life, bro? How is your day? And I would always tell him, oh, today when I sit on the bus, I saw this pretty girl in the bus. I want to get her handphone number, but I did not get it. And I just left it away. So I actually exaggerating. I was exaggerating at that point. In fact, it was such a it was just a normal day. I was just sitting on a bus and I see a beautiful girl and say, okay, beautiful girl. And then I came back home and I told him, oh, I saw a very beautiful girl. I wanted to get a phone number, but I can't get it. So that's one way of how we can express our ordinary life. Even though it's ordinary, doesn't mean that it's not interesting. We can make it interesting. That is one way of expressing yourself. Now, this time, repeat the above activity. Instead of just coming back home normally, what if you face a small little accident in school or work, or before you even enter school, or before you enter work, or maybe even after work? Anyone would like to try this part of the activity?
Not very good. Maybe I say not very good. My car just now, I just banged the wall, and then my car just have a bump at there.
Oh,
Very
that's
terrible day.
very terrible. There should be there's a dent in your car. Oh, that means you still have to pay for it. Anyone else would like to try this activity? Face a small accident. Maybe Nelson, would you like to try as our timer?
Okay, sure. Hi, okay. But this time you face a small, oh my God, what I made a mistake in my work, or oh my God. That's all. Thank you. Back to you, Joshua.
Okay, thanks. So I think that's a very natural reaction when you did something wrong in your work, say something very critical. Like, for example, you're about to meet, you already missed the deadline for submission. And you say, oh my God, I should have done it earlier. I should have. Perhaps we can have one more speaker. Maybe Bindu or Ian or Jenny, would you like to try?
Okay.
Oh yeah, okay, Ian. Right.
Yeah, maybe I'll try it.
Okay.
Right. So today wasn't that great. Came back from work. On the way back, I was using a scooter. Just my tires hit the side of the sidewalk and sort of fell over and bruised my whole leg. So here I am.
Yeah, I mean, I hope your leg can heal as soon as possible. Hopefully you're all okay, and I can see you smiling. So I guess currently you are half okay and maybe half not okay.
Exaggerating
Exaggerating.
yeah.
But be
All right,
careful on the road
thanks.
as well. Be careful on the road as well.
Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, from these two activities, you notice that if we express our everyday life normally, it wouldn't be that interesting to listen to. But if you express it a little differently, maybe a little bit of exaggeration, or maybe something that really happened in real life, a tragedy, or not necessarily a tragedy, maybe something lucky that happened to you. If you express it with feelings, with emotions, the story itself will become much more interesting. So let's dive deep together. I believe most of you have watched this cartoon before, or maybe not all of us have watched this cartoon. Inside Out. Have anyone watched Inside Out? Raise your hands. Okay, Lauren, one. So for those who have not watched before Inside Out, it's basically like these persona of emotions. They are controlling the human emotions. So there's joy, there's sadness, there's anger, there's worry, and there's also disgust. And the thing about emotions is that they can be a driving force to a story. So, for example, when you're giving a dialogue, I love the thing about dialogue is that I like to play as a different character. For example, in my area contest speech, I love to portray my mother as a always seem to be angry and don't like whatever I'm doing kind of person. And I always display it as originally as possible so that everyone can get a picture of how my mother is like by through expressing characters' feelings. And the thing about expressing characters' feelings is that, you know, you're telling a story. If you introduce some feelings into it, people would kind of understand, oh, so this is what the character is feeling right now. For example, in a club contest, I do manage to see a contestant who managed to express the feelings in terms of anger and sadness, and the whole audience was like shocked through the performance. So then everyone will slowly start to sympathize with the speaker as well. So that's the thing about expressing the feelings. It can be very powerful in how it drives the story forward, and it's also one of the ways for you to grab your audience attention. So when you add expression, the characters come to life and adds depth to the story. But let's not forget, when you express feelings, you may also want to add facial expressions. Say, for example, you are happy. You would want to show a happy face. If you're sad, you may want to try to like be a bit sad in your face expressions. Or if you're angry, you may want to try to act out that you're angry. Again, there's no need to be too exaggerating or do anything unnatural about facial expressions. But as long as you have the feeling in yourself, as long as you know how that feeling is like, I think that facial expressions will come naturally. And why add dialogue? Through adding dialogue, I think dialogue is one of the ways that you can show the characters' feelings. Say, for example, you're telling a story about two characters, maybe about myself and my mother. For myself, of course, I would try to portray as a happy-go-lucky kind of boy, whereas my mother is an angry character who is always confused and frustrated with why her son is always not caring about what's about to happen next. So through those dialogues, it is one of the ways where I can express how a character feels like and what are they more or less like in real life, and how do people react to certain things in life. So that's why I think having feelings, and also that's why I think dialogue is a great way to express a character's feelings. In addition, of course, to how we tell our story. I seem to also remember that in the division contest, I remember myself and 3 other contestants, we were giving out our speech. There were humors in our speeches, but when it comes to the last contestants, because the first 4 speeches was slightly towards the lighter side, but when it comes to the last contestant, his speech was towards a little bit more serious. It's a little bit more serious in tone for his speech. So then I noticed that the atmosphere suddenly become much more from the happy and lively atmosphere, suddenly becomes a little bit more serious, possibly sad, and possibly understanding of what the speaker is going through at that point of being far away from home, not being able to meet with his family members. So that is one of the ways where, for example, when you want to try to express your sad, you slow your pace down. You try to bring everything down a bit. you want to be down. That's how you express sadness. Whereas if you're happy, you try to bring your energy level up. And you can notice that how someone speaks when they're happy is that they are very active. They're happy. It's like they have a lot of energy inside of them. But when someone is angry, you notice that the feeling, that the way how someone expresses it is like a burst of energy pouring out from within your stomach or within your chest and all the way out from your mouth. And the eyes, especially angry eyes, they will tend to stare at one direction and not move away from it. Whereas frustrated is, I am adding a little bit of facial expressions into it, is you're not really sure. Not really sure whether is it this way or is it that way. You're not really sure how are you going to continue your life with. Confused, frustrated. There's like this arched eyebrow. So expressing a character's feelings or expressing feelings is something that I also like to include in my speeches. For example, in my club contest, I remember that I started off in the beginning by saying, I think right now it's not a good time for me to shout loudly, but I'll try to make it into a mini version of it. Kedah, that is so far away. Isn't that a rural place with paddy fields and no entertainment? Oh my God. So that is one way that at the same time, I'm shocked that I have to go so far. And I can't comprehend it, like, why do I get sent so far away? And I try to reject of going somewhere far, which is called Kedah. But now I'm in Penang already, so I guess that's useless right now, that expression. So that is about expressing feelings. So, and one more thing is that expressing yourself is not limited to the emotions, the basic emotions, but also includes your level of enthusiasm and confidence. When you walk onto a stage as a contestant, I believe that even before you registered for the contest, perhaps you are confident that you want to join this contest. By registering yourself into the contest, I think that is the first step of courage already. You're already quite brave by taking that step. To stand in front of an audience and compete with so many people just to move on to this next stage, you got to have a level of confidence in your speech, and not just your speech, but also yourself. Whether you're confident in expressing all that is required to be expressed from your speech, whether you're confident that people would actually relate or interested with your speech, and their enthusiasm. If you're not, I would say if you don't have that level, if you didn't bring enough energy or enough enthusiasm to your speech, it wouldn't excite people. At least that's what I think. Because back then, I remember whenever I give a speech, people do mention that I have this monotonous voice. Even my parents, they also did say I have monotonous voice. So I can imagine if monotonous would be boring. Can you imagine you're listening to a teacher standing speaking monotonously, and halfway through you're already starting to sleep? But by having that enthusiasm, I think enthusiasm can also help you to slowly create the feelings, being more confident in your speech, and also later on delivering your hand gestures, your eye contact, and your body language as well, making you more comfortable and also making the speech exciting at the same time. So these are the 4 points: expressing characters' feelings, and how it makes the characters come to life. Adding the facial expressions can also help, and also dialogue. And lastly, to have enthusiasm and confidence. Okay, so far, so good, everyone, at session number 2. I hope, okay. I hope it's not boring, everyone, with so far and session 2. Because now session 3, we're coming to speech delivery. As you remember, in the judge's guide and ballot, we have the content, we have delivery, and we have language. The first session is about preparing a script. That one would be more focused on content. The second one, expressing yourself, that will be more on the delivery part. And now session 3 is also on delivery. I'd like to start this session with also another activity, which is called, this Betty bought a bit of butter, but the butter was bitter. So Betty bought a better butter to make the bitter butter better. This is the tongue twister. Maybe, perhaps I can ask someone to try out this tongue twister. Who here believes he can say all these words as fast as possible? Oh, Ravin. Okay, good. Ravin, let's see what you got.
Just try.
All right,
Betty
sure.
bought a bit of butter, but the butter was bitter. So Betty bought a better butter to make the bitter butter better.
Okay, that's great. Now, let's try upping the speed a bit. Is it okay?
Sure, sure.
All right.
Betty bought a bit of butter, but the butter was bitter. So Betty bought a butter to make a bitter butter better.
Okay, let's try faster a bit.
Some more faster.
Faster.
Betty bought a bit of butter, but the butter was bitter. So Betty bought a better butter to make the bitter butter better.
Oh, okay, that is fast. Right, now let's try slowing down the pace. Is it okay, Ravi?
Sure. Betty bought a bit of butter, but the butter was bitter. So Betty bought a better butter to make the bitter butter better.
Okay, congratulations, Ravin. That was wonderful. So, ladies and gentlemen, what is the aim of me doing this tongue twister? You notice that when you start to say things very fast, you will start to stutter, and maybe even the audiences would try to catch up with speed of what you are trying to say. But when you try to say it slower, slowing down the pace, whatever that comes out from your mouth starts to become more clear, and people would, catch up with your pace. They're the same pace with you, and they know where you're going. But let's say, try going a little bit slower. Betty bought a bit of butter, but the butter was bitter. So Betty bought a better butter to make the bitter butter better. That will be a bit too slow, and it sounds like one block of short words. So pacing is everything in a speech. Too fast, and your words will seem to be a bit blurry. Too slow, and people will start to feel a little bit tired and wish that you can be a bit faster. So that is the point of the tongue twister, which is playing around with how the speed and pace of your speech. But then now I have another activity. If you were to take a selfie or picture with someone or an object, how would you position your hand and or body? I think this one should be easier. Anyone would like to demonstrate how would you take a selfie? Perhaps Kunit, would you like to demonstrate how to take a selfie or a picture with an object?
Sure. I have a phone. Okay, see my
Okay.
phone here.
Yeah, I can see your
Okay.
phone.
Okay. So usually I just like,
Okay, that is the typical cool pose that people would do for their selfie. That is good. Yeah. Anyone would like to share how you would take a picture with someone, or maybe if an object like your teddy bear or your car, maybe. The only hand positions that I know of is this one, that's it. Yeah. Or and then my body is always straight. That's it. I can't move anywhere else. Anyone would like to share how you would take a selfie or a picture of if someone or maybe an object, like maybe Bunting or Bindu, Lorraine. Anyone would like to share? Anyone? Wei Kang maybe? No. Okay, it's okay if no one wants to share. But the thing is, why people do this or this or this or this? What is the point of them doing all these positions? So that they can make themselves look better in their pictures when they post it around, and they can get the likes. Or why they position their hands like this? Because they want to show something in the background of them. They want to show something. So it's kind of, there is a purpose in the way they position their hands and body. Similarly, in a speech contest, you may want to position your hands or body purposefully, because you can't just have all kinds of unnatural hand gestures. You may want to have these hand gestures naturally, like you're trying to convey something. Say, for example, you are trying to give a informational speech that has 3 important points that you want people to take note of. So usually we would always give this. You put the three fingers, that this is the first point, this is the second point, this is the third point. It is purposeful. Or maybe you want to say about myself. You put your hands to yourself, myself. See, this is purposeful. But this is just a hand gesture. In a competition setting, it's not just about how you move your body, but where can you move your body. In a contest, there is a space for you to move around, and it's limited. So how can we, you have to use that stage fully, which is one of the points that I have here. Let's get technical. Whatever I'm presenting in this session, the speech delivery, they are the technical things that you would always listen in the evaluation session, especially if you notice in all the evaluation notes, it's all about body language, hand gestures, eye contacts, clarity, the voice and the volume. So in a contest, these are also important things that can help you to win or impress your judges and the audiences. There we go. Include hand gestures and body language purposefully. For example, how you can do body language purposefully. Remember in this last session, we're talking about dialogues. Usually dialogues can comprise of 1 or 2 characters. You may want, usually what I would do when I portray 2 characters is, one side, this is me. So then when I change to another character, my mother, probably, I move to the other side, so that people will know that I'm portraying a different character. Imagine if I stand at one spot, I can still portray different characters, but that means I have to be very good in expressing my voice and feelings and feelings of that character. But just by moving your body, people would see, oh, this side is you, this side is the mother. Hand gestures, I would say hand gestures is a very natural process. Let's say, for example, you have, this is, sometimes when I present, this is one part of speech, this is my second part of speech, and then lastly, close it. I'll give an example. For example, when I say newspapers, my hands would do this. Why? Because I want to show people how a newspaper is being opened. It's being opened like a book. It's being opened like this. Or maybe if I say, or maybe if I want to show people about jumping action, I would then jump. To include hand gestures and body language purposefully, because I think hand gestures and body language can make you quite memorable. For example, I do remember there was one time in one of my club meetings, a member, he did push-ups, and I think that is what excited the audiences when they saw him do a push-up. And they will actually clap for him and cheer for him. So hand gestures and body languages are actually quite useful in your speech. The second point, utilize the stage to the fullest. I mean, the stage is yours in a contest. You can actually just put props in your stage. It's so big and wide that you can even dance from the left to the right, or even run around it, just to show people. For example, you run a marathon, you want to show people how you run a marathon. Well, you can use that stage, since the stage is wide enough for you to run around it. Third point is using props. If it helps deliver your message more faithfully, I brought the newspaper in the area contest because I want to show people what a newspaper is if they've never seen a newspaper before. But I believe everyone during this age still knows what a newspaper is. But thing is, when I bring that newspaper along, it's so that I can connect my opening, which is when I ask people, riddle me this. What is black and white and red all over? And I can take out a newspaper, like a magician who has something hiding up in his coat, a newspaper. And then I put it aside. Towards the end, I take it up again to pretend I'm reading newspaper so that I can ask them questions and not know what are their answers yet. Until I fold it over, I was shocked to see the answer. So in a way, if the props can really help you deliver a message more impactful, or maybe more faithfully to what you are trying to share with the audiences, I think you can prepare it for your next contest. Also, speak at a suitable pace and a clear voice. These days, we have mics or these headsets, and then also the speakers to project the voice of the speaker in the entire room so people can hear clearly. But sometimes, if you notice, the headsets and the speakers, they also do have some static sounds, which can somehow hinder your voice as well and make it not clear. For example, pss, pss, pss. And then halfway through, maybe if the headset doesn't work, your voice will go from loud to not that loud, to a small tiny whisper. So when you present, you may want to present in, not to say you present very loudly, but present in a voice that can project to the audiences. Ensure that it is clear so that we can hear every tiny little words that you say in your speech, and also present it in a suitable pace. Maybe you may want to go fast in one part of the speech, or you want to go slower at one part of the speech. But as long as you are suitable in that pace, just continue with it. And lastly is maintain eye contact with the audiences. That, I think, is the hardest part, maintaining eye contact, because there's so many eyes looking at you. Even I myself would also get quite nervous seeing so many eyes looking at myself. But one thing that one of my friends did share is that when you want to maintain eye contact with an audience, you don't necessarily have to look straight into their eyes. You can also look at their noses, because the noses is just in between their eyes. And sometimes during the competition, not only do I look just from left to right, I look at their hair, the head. I look at the hair, the head, because the hair and the head is almost close to the eyes. But then from audience point of view, it may look like I'm looking towards them, possibly, or maybe I'm looking at someone behind them. So that's one way you can maintain eye contact with audience, so that the audience feels you are engaged with them, that you're talking to them instead of just sharing a speech, but you're sharing the speech to them more in a more personal level, I would say, by maintaining eye contact with the audience. So that is all for all 3 sessions. I just to summarize what I've mentioned so far. First, I mentioned about what International Speech and Evaluation Contest is, with the judging criteria, which is based on Judges Guide and Ballot. Then we move on to the preparing a script, where I shared how you can find that you should find a suitable topic. In fact, there's something I'd like to share is, how can you find a suitable topic? Yes, how can you find a suitable topic? There's so many things that there's so many ideas, or maybe sometimes we might not have ideas. But how can we find a suitable topic? Say, for example, in the club contest, I presented which university I want to go to. So how do I come up with that one? Is because when I look at the university, I'll think about, how did I get here? How did I get here? And that brings me back to, at that point of time, where I was figuring out which pre-university I should go to. And that episode of my life resonated strongly. And I was confident with that topic, so that's why I choose that topic. And thankfully, it was suitable for the club contest, especially with my audiences as university students. But then when it comes to the area level, I thought that choosing which pre-university may not be suitable for a wider range of audience. I need to find another topic that I think is more appropriate. So then I was trying to find a topic, and the next day my friends was like saying, "Hey, wow, this guy is very hardworking. He always buy newspapers to go back home and read." Yeah, I think that's an interesting idea. Newspapers, why not? Especially in this age where everyone just gets their news from the internet, and not many people read newspapers nowadays. And so I thought, perhaps I can share also why I still continue to read newspapers. And it's something that I am also confident with. So how we can find a suitable topic is that you can look around and just look around at your life. Maybe there's something memorable. Say, for example, a water bottle. If you think this water bottle is memorable to you, then by all means, just share with the audiences. But you need to ensure that you have enough content to share with people and that it resonates strongly with you. The second thing is the speech structure. We'll talk about the opening, the body, and the ending. I think every speech always has a beginning, a body, and an ending. But it depends on how we start it off. For example, in an opening, most people would start off with a quote. Like, for example, I said, "Ever tried?" Like, for example, I said, another contestant said, "Ever tried? Ever feel better?" That was a quote from Samuel Beckett. And for my case, I asked the audiences, "Riddle me this." I started off with a question to try to get them to answer my question. Maybe someone would give you a very strong statement, like, instead of, maybe they start singing a song. Da 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 da, for example. And then maybe also dancing, and they will be looking at him, attention grabbing. So that is the opening. And the body, you just have to remember usually people would have the 3 criteria, which is the points, the elaboration, and the example. For example, you may say, I got the bruise on my leg. How I got the bruise on my leg? You start telling a point. Say maybe you accidentally hit a chair because you were not looking carefully at where you go, and then you tell them how you hit the chair. That is the example. So that's the point, the elaboration, example. And then the ending, I did mention that we can end it with a bang, because the energy level of your audiences will start to go from high to low, and then there's a roller coaster in between. And if you want to bring their energy level back up to how initially it was, or maybe even almost at the same level, you should end it with a bang. For example, in my area speech, I end it with a bang by doing by taking a newspaper prop and asking people how many of you still read newspapers, and then expressing my feelings at the time. Or you may want to end it with a very motivational or inspirational quote. Because remember, this contest is not just about competing to win the first place, but it's also trying to show people how much you've grown and sharing a message. Like what makes us want to listen to you? Maybe you have a message to share, a life lesson that not many people know. So that's how you can end with a bang. And also I did discuss about including humors and stories, because stories is one of the easiest way you can relate yourself with your audiences. Some people may experience the same thing that you have experienced in your story. Some people may not, or maybe they haven't yet to experience it. And including humor can also continue to elevate people's energy levels throughout your story. And then the second section is about expressing yourself. By acting out our feelings, it can give your story a bit more depth, and also give your characters more life, more meaning to it. Adding facial expressions is also one way to convey your message through expressing yourself. And lastly is the speech delivery, in terms of the technicalities like the body language, the eye contacts, stage usage, and props. So these are a summary of what I've shared in the webinar. Of course, just looking through all these guides and understanding it is not enough. What you want to do is you also want to practice on it. And when I did my research, or when I went and searched online of tips and tricks of how to do well in the contest, most of them would say you have to practice, because practice makes perfect, right? Practice, practice, and practice. By practicing all these, slowly you start to feel more confident, or maybe more natural in the way you present it to the audiences. That is one of the things that I learned. And I think that's about it. That's about it for my webinar. Right now is the Q&A session. Yeah, yes, Ming Kang.
Hi, thanks for the nice talk. So I was wondering, quite often I find my speech or my topic not impactful or purposeful enough for others to spend time listening.
Not impactful and purposeful enough, you say?
Yeah, for them to, it's not impactful enough that worth their 5 to 7 minutes or 10 minutes. So do you find that, especially when we're still student, and how do you solve that? Thanks.
Not impactful and useful enough. Is it in terms of your content, or in terms of whether the audience?
Content. Okay, there are some things that I care, but those are the things that people don't care. Like for one example, it's the information sharing, which others might not find it useful. Niche topic, for example.
I see. All right. Let me share with you a story about this one. I have a friend whom I like to share whatever cinema, whatever movies I've watched. And the thing is, I used to share with him a lot about the stories, but he wasn't interested in the story of the movie. He was interested in more on, what makes this movie special? Is it the sound effects? Is it the visuals? Is it the actors? So he was looking for something more impactful out of me, more useful. So then, ever since I understand what is it that he wants, what is it that my audience want, in your case, for example, and if you know what your audience wants, if you know what your audience is, then you would actually try to tailor your speech. For example, after I know my friend what is it that he wants, okay, I try to take note more on the sound effects of the movie, how the actors act, the visuals. But at the same time, those little bit of information that you think is useless, I will still include it, but in a different way, and maybe in a funny manner, for him to laugh it out and understand, oh, so this is what the story is about. Like, at least he has a teaser of it. But at the same time, I understand, this movie sounds good, since its sound effects can affect how a person view this movie, or maybe the visual effects. So maybe, for example, Mingkang, in your case, let's say mathematics. I saw you teaching mathematics just now. Let's say, for example, there are some little information that you want to give to the students. But you must know, students at that time of age, maybe they might think, no, this little information is not useful. Until they grow older, they realize it is useful. So perhaps you may want to try to figure out how you can actually include it into your speech, so that they realize, oh, so this thing is actually quite interesting. It is quite useful for them in the future. That maybe something they can learn in the future. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thanks.
Okay. Yes.
Joshua.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, Joshua, I just want to ask, let's say, right, you already write a speech, because like, I see there's this trend among Toastmasters, right, where they have a good opening, they have a good content and everything, but when it comes to the ending, right, it's a bit blah. So like, how do you advise to make the ending as impactful as the opening?
Okay, this is also something that I face as well. I usually have a good opening. I usually have a juicy content. But when it comes to the ending, I always struggle at that part. The problem is because I did not have an ending in my mind yet. I was actually enjoying my process in creating the body content and the opening. But ever since I start reading more on how ending is also quite important, how we can improve is to, after creating the body, need to figure out, okay, what is the purpose of me telling this story? For example, the newspaper. I tell so much that, I from reading newspaper, I know about the sports, I know about what's happening globally, I know what's happening locally, but ultimately, what is it? What is the message that I'm trying to tell people? As I mentioned earlier, the message can also be your ending with a bang criteria, because people always seems to get touched with inspirational quotes, maybe something that that is philosophical, maybe perhaps. So usually what I would do is, whenever I try to present a speech or present a story, I would try to ask myself, what is it that I want to deliver? What is it that I want to share with the audience? So that will become my ending. And that, I think, could be a way I can try to make it impactful and purposeful at the same time to the audiences. Did I answer your question, Iktifa?
Yes, you did.
Okay, great.
Hi, Joshua. I want to.
Sorry?
Okay, continue. I would like to ask that if sometimes when I draft the speech, but I cannot memorize during the time that I deliver the speech. So I would like to ask that, how do do that to memorize the speech and for graph.
Okay, memorizing a speech. If you think back in our primary school, the teachers will most likely ask us to just memorize it, and I also do admit that it is quite hard to remember everything. What I did was, and another time that I did was, while I was writing it, because I was writing the script with my own with my own bare hands. So in a way, it slowly seeps through my mind. But that doesn't work for everyone. One way I find out that we can easily memorize our script, I would say, is having points. Say, for example, you have 3 different points. Maybe say road to ISEC, that will be your speech, road to ISEC. What is the 3 points? The 3 points: preparing a script, expressing yourself, speech delivery. So you remember the 3 main points of your speech. And after remembering 3 main points of your speech, you may want to remember the examples in it. That is why adding examples is also a good thing, because adding examples also helps you to remember your script more easily. Adding, like, for example, if you have stories, usually stories is something that people can remember easily. Like, for example, like Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. Used to read it a lot back when I was young. Until now, I still remember the story. I still remember the storyline of it. So adding stories into your script and also try to break it down into 3 main points. I think that is one of the ways you can memorize the script. But there are also other information that these people do is they tend to look at their surroundings. For example, they may look at the wall while they are preparing their script, of course, and they will instantly remember what was it that they were writing at the time. What was the content that they were doing? So it depends on people how they want to remember. But for me, I would say, as long as you remember the 3 main points that you want and adding a story element into it, I think that is one of the way that you can make your script easy to remember. Did I answer your question, Jenny?
Okay, thank you.
And sorry for just now, Ian, I saw you raising your hand. You wanted to ask something?
Yeah, I think that was asked by Jenny already.
Nice.
Same thing. Just wanted to know what is the norm for the speech preparations. Do you memorize a script and do it over and over again, like in a TED talk, something? I heard some of them actually memorize the scripts and deliver it like countless times over the week. Or do you like go through the points and you answer that? So yeah, I think that is how I do it as well. It's just too much work to memorize.
Yes, exactly. There's so many things to memorize. The easiest way is through points. Of course, practicing and memorizing it at the same time can also help. That's what I did previously before the contest. First, I started off with remembering the 3 points. Then as I slowly get closer to the contest, I tried to slowly memorize back. It was quite difficult, I would say. It was quite difficult. But by remembering points, it was easier. I know, okay, after this point, what is the next point I'm going to go? And after this point, what is the next point I'm going to go? So yes, remembering points.
So one more thing. The previous week, Ming Kang said he takes him about 2 to 3 days to prepare fully for a full-blown speech. Well, what about for you?
Well, it really depends, but as far as I remember, I would say 1 week, maybe 1 week. It really depends on people. Some people, if they really have a story in mind, 2 to 3 days is also quite good, actually, quite impressive. 1 week can be quite long also, 1 week. So I think
that's normal.
yeah, it can be normal, but it depends on the person. You may not have enough ideas at that point of time. So that's why it can be 1 week. Maybe you need more time to think about it and filter out which content do you think is more impactful, which content do you think people would listen more to, And maybe what content that you think people should know from those preparation. So that's what I think. It depends on people.
Sure.
All right.
Because I heard like for comedians, even they from a 1 minute speech, they kept working on it till it's like only 30 seconds just to get to that point. So the more you prepare, the shorter it becomes, or something like that. Yeah.
I see. Yes. All right. Thanks for sharing. Yes, Mingkang?
Sorry, one more questions. I
Okay.
was often accused of being too fake when I try to express more emotion. So how do you balance between being sincere and honest and also being expressive without being too dramatic or fake? Thank you.
I see. My answer to that would be, how would you feel during that moment? Say, for example, when you found out that your favorite scientist, for example, let's say you found out your favorite scientist is coming to Malaysia, how would you express yourself? For example, Mingkang, how would you express yourself?
Excited?
Okay, you feel excited, like currently right now you're so excited a bit, you're smiling a bit. You want to try to express it in a more natural way, like you don't want to accentuate. Okay, I give an example regarding about my club speech, when I just now I mentioned about Gerda. So that one can be a bit fake because in real life I did not do that. But why it works is because I do it because I observe. I observe through movies, sometimes movies, or sometimes through how people would react to these kind of things. If you notice in life, there's a lot of expressions coming out from people. I would say school life is the best place to notice people from different expressions. Or for example, if you notice, I don't understand why every time when people propose to someone, you notice people like, and then when I observe how they do it, I will just act it out because I thought that would be natural. I thought that would be natural, so I just observe and try to express it. Perhaps you may want to give more context on which part did people say that it is a bit too fake for expressions? Perhaps I can help out.
Couldn't think of it right now. Maybe
Sorry?
next time.
Oh, okay, sure. But yeah, answer your question.
Yeah. I'll try to practice with feelings.
Any other questions?
Oh.
Oh, yes, Ravin.
Thank you. Somebody want to speak? Can go ahead, please. Can go ahead. It's all right.
Things is normally when we deliver our speech, it will look like our speech. When we say about the speech, it will look like very plain. Then how do you like make the speech looks more humorous and with intonations?
What bland, humorous. So you're trying to go to a more humorous route, or that doesn't have to be humorous, it can be interesting.
Emotion. How
Or
do you do that emotion when you deliver your speech? Or intonation?
Intonation. Well, as I mentioned earlier, most of the time is mainly through observing how others would react. But at the same time, it's not just observing how others would react to a situation. Sometimes I would also ask myself the question, how would I react when I'm angry? How would I react when I'm sad? And how would I react when I'm happy? When I present a story, usually I like to add just small little dialogues of people. For example, my mother, I always say my mother because she is my greatest inspiration when it comes to giving a speech some of the times. So I know my mother well, I know this person well, and I know how they would act it out. So then I would try to impersonate how they would react to a certain situation. That is how I slowly develop this expressing the emotions and feelings of someone, but not just limited to seeing and observing how people in real life do it, but it's also watching comedians. I watch comedians because those comedians, they're very good at expressing their emotions. For example, they're very good at expressing emotions, like they're shocked or angry. So some of the times I take inspiration from the comedians. Some of the times I would look and observe how people would react to a situation and just imitate how they would do it. And that is only for the dialogue part and examples, but by adding emotions into your story. Let's say you are interested in newspaper. I am interested in newspaper. So that's why every time I look at it, I feel happy. I feel happy when I see something, see that newspaper, I feel happy. So when I talk about it, I feel happy. I imagine that I'm happily sharing it with my friends. So that is how I channel my emotions through that story. Did I answer your question?
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Okay. Yes, Ravi.
Yes. Thank you, Joshua, for a brilliant presentation you made this evening. I learned both from your speech and also from the responses to the many questions that you had.
I think you're like perhaps later on I would address Ravin's questions. Anyone else would like to ask a question?
Yeah, Joshua,
Yes.
how long did it take you to get to where you are right now? Or more specifically, when was the breaking point that you realized that I am confident enough, that
Oh, that's actually quite a good question. In Toastmasters, we actually have these pathways. Each pathways have their level. And just for everyone to know, if you want to join the international speech contest, the international speech part, not the evaluation part, the international speech part, you need to be at least a level 2 or above. Then only you can participate in the contest. But I'm not saying that after level 2, oh, I'm already very confident that I can go in for this contest. I'm confident that I can win. No, actually, it took me almost 3 to 4 years time by observing and learning from the club speakers from other clubs, and also watching how all the contestants present their speech in the contest. Not limited to those in Malaysia, but sometimes sometimes our club will also like to share winners, international winners, how they present their speech. So it is from there that I observe, trying to practice it in my presentation speeches during club meetings. And slowly as I present, I realize, no, I'm getting confident. I'm starting to feel more comfortable presenting in this manner, in this style, and in this large setting. So I would say 3 to 4 years time since I joined Toastmasters. Yes. Is Ravin back? Yes, Ravin, you are back.
Yes,
just
Joshua,
now you were
apologies.
like,
Apologies. Just
it's okay.
all right. The question I wanted to make is, when you are doing a presentation in a contest, who do you focus on, the audience or the judges? What's your opinion? Because sometimes they're two different disparate interests, the audience and the judges. So who do you address actually to get whatever you want?
Wow, to get whatever I want. I'll be honest, I don't really know who the judges are on that day. So my answer would be on the audiences. Because if you think about it, one of the criteria in the judges' guides and ballot was on speech delivery, if I'm not mistaken. It was under the content, effectiveness, correct, effectiveness. How the achievement of the purpose and the interest that was directed towards on the audience interest in your speech, in your content. So what I did is I always think of the judges as part of the audiences. If the audience laugh, most likely the judges would also laugh. If the audience cry, most likely the judges would also cry. So in my opinion, I would say that I try to, when I present a speech, I'm addressing it to the audience. I'm addressing it to everyone, not biased to, I know you're a judges, so I try to my best to fill in up all the marks to get full marks. No, it's towards the entire audience because there is a message I would like to share with everyone, and I think everyone deserves to have that that message and that knowledge. Yes. Did I answer your question?
Thank you, Joshua. Very good response you gave. Yes, it's true. We do not know who the judges are. They're anonymous, though there are some clamoring now for judges to be more visible. But that's a story for another day. But the fact that, when we prepare for contest speeches, we first and foremost, we look at the judges' criteria. So when you're doing that, we actually focusing on the judging rather than the audience. I mean, we come from that angle. We come from that angle.
I see where you're coming from.
You are right. When it comes to the delivery, you don't know. So you address all and hope that it reaches the right ears. Thank you, Joshua. I take your point.
All right. I also understand your point as well. Thanks.
Thank you.
May I ask timer, how much time do we have left? I know it's red.
Sorry, our time is for Q&A is already over because according to agenda, we still should be dismissed now.
Oh, I see. Oh, time really passes by that quickly. In case anyone would still like to ask me any more questions, perhaps you may contact me through this phone number 012-3799-398 in case you have questions that you feel like you need to ask me based on this webinar. So you may save this number and WhatsApp me. If I have the time, I would reply to you. So lastly, all the best to those who wishes to participate in the future contest. Hope this webinar inspired you to be a champion. I name it Road to ISEC because of in the Olympics, Malaysia Olympics, they have this road to gold, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, they have this road to gold plan. So hopefully this webinar will be your road to get a goal in the champion, maybe not just in the club, but to higher levels area, division, district. So and that's all from me. Thanks for joining, everyone.
Thank you, Joshua.
Thanks, Joshua. Bye.
Thank you, Joshua.
Oh yeah, maybe one last thing. Would everyone maybe I can ask everyone to open your cam, maybe have a group photo, perhaps?
Sure. I will take it.
Okay, sure.
Okay. So everyone ready your cam? 3, 2, 1. Okay, one more in case got any mistake. Maybe you can do a freestyle like 3, 2, 1. Wait, 3, 2, 3, 2, 1. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Zijun. So thank you everyone for joining this webinar. I hope you guys learned a lot, and sorry if there's any mistake that I did throughout the session, or maybe I did not answer to any of your questions. So, but feel free to contact me. I already shared my contact in the chat. So good night, everyone, and have a safe dream. No, not safe dream. Have a nice dream.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Josh. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Joshua.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, I forgot to ask. Where are you from, Ravin? Oh, okay.
Okay. So, maybe I share my. I don't know when Min Kang left, but hi Bunting. So our webinar has done. So sorry that I will remove you from the room. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for joining, Bunting. Sorry that I will remove you from the meeting room.
Okay, now is the evaluation session.
Oh gosh. I almost forgot. So I have evaluation form here, haven't present.
Okay, I'll start first.
Okay.
For the first session, I think almost same for the 3 session lah. It's just for me as an audience. I like about how you're engaging with us. The activity is very interesting. Like you relate like how to say like a Lego, like just stack. You stack the first at the bottom is you talk about, you brief about yourself. And then you stack one more, brief about others. And then you just add on, you want to bring, and then lastly you bring about your topic is, it's easy to describe self, but it's hard to describe others. And second, I very amazed that you use the mind map because this is a very long 1 hour 30 minutes webinar. So people might get confused about the things about your talk. It's good that you provide a very structured and organized with the mind map, a bubble map you link, or tree map you will link about. Okay, this you plan about what your topic you want to talk about, and then okay, you want to write a speech, you have an opening, what to write about opening, and then you branch out about the positive statement. Here's an example, and then the closing also like same branch, how to write a closing. Like you link back to your body, and then you can link, and then you like end in your hand or something like that. And third, I like about your interest, yeah, how you related what you talk about, because your webinar is informative, so you did well in you using the very interesting with your interesting example with your personal experience about like the newspaper, like talking about the opening, how you relate the opening is like does everyone read newspaper, and then very less people see a newspaper. To make it like spice up your whole webinar, as an audience view, for me, it's good that you can add some humorous example for it, because feel like people, because as well the same word is a long webinar, it's good that you can add some like a little bit humor is enough to let the others feel wow about your speech, and that so people will not get like boring or something. This as an audience. Overall, I like about how you engage your audience, and then you do a mind map and provide a very relevant personal experience story. You can spice up your webinar with some humorous example or humorous thing. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, maybe who's the external evaluator? Junhong, is it?
Yeah, Junhong.
Okay.
I'm a bit confused. What happened just now? Are we having two evaluators for the same project speech, or?
Actually, it's like you know, maybe one is internal
First
club
session,
members.
second session, third session. Is it correct?
Yeah. Sorry.
Second
I didn't
session, it should be Minkang. Second evaluation.
Sorry, I didn't inform you, but for Joshua's webinar, we will have 3 evaluators so that we can have a better coverage of this. Because it's a long webinar. So after consulting with Joshua, we have decided to have 3 evaluators.
Oh, okay.
I'll go first then. I will not focus. This is my relation to Joshua. So sorry, I wouldn't focus much on the session 2, which I will give you a written one instead, because what pops in my mind is rather general. First thing, I like that in terms of preparation for the workshop, the organization is good. And I noticed that you or your team has utilized every possible promotional channel, which is various WhatsApp groups and Instagram, to reach out as many Toastmasters as possible. So that's one good point. The second good point is the slide is simple to understand. Does not have many words to make us difficult even to read. Because when we have too much to read, we will be distracted by your slides, wouldn't listen to you anymore. And the third thing that I like is during your session, you are actively looking at audience attention. Sorry, looking at audience and at the same time looking at chat. A little bit less on chat, but you try to engage every possible audience as possible. I notice you don't call out the repeated person to do the activity. You try to call out different person, and I think it's very good to engage those more quietly. So that's one is good. In terms of suggestions, I have 3. Number 1 is I would wish that your slides have slide number, because it's a long hour seminar. People would like to expect what's the progress right now. Do we have 10 more slides out of 15? Do we have 5 more? Then we'll expect what time to end. So that's number 1. Number 2 is I will expect you to put more of non-written example. Say video examples, just a short 5-second clips of how you conclude your video. Sorry, how you conclude your speech. Put that recording in the slides. 5 seconds will be enough. So that makes your speech more credible to the audience as well. And finally, I would hope that by looking at the participants rate today, I feel like the promotion could have been done a little bit earlier, because I noticed it was done 2 days before this. I think it was on Saturday, which I suppose that's one of the factors that makes the participant risk a little bit lower than the expected amount. So overall, that's my evaluation. 3 good points. The promotion channel, the materials, and also taking care of all the audiences. And 3 improvement is in terms of slide number, promotional period, and one more is supporting evidence in terms of videos. That's it. Thank you. Back to Joshua.
Thank you. And last one is Chun Hong, right? Okay.
All right, I'll start now. Okay, Joshua, I would say that you have achieved the purpose statement of facilitating or leading a webinar. So congratulations on that. I'll give you 3, 2, 1, 3 strengths, 2 areas of improvement, and 1 challenge. First thing that really inspired, which I admire you a lot, is how well prepared you are. There's a well-defined goals and objectives, how to ace in your international speech and evaluation contest, and the tips 1, 2, 3 step by step is all there. Day and time, definitely you input it in the correct way, and you had this webinar at that date and that time. Agenda was stated right in front in the few beginning of the slides. Then all of us know how will you proceed with each step of your webinar. Then additionally, I saw some resources being tagged which facilitates in supplementary reading. For example, your judges' guides and ballot, which is very helpful for people to click in, and whenever they want to refer, they know where they can look into and learn more. And one more thing that I really like is that you give great tips to counter anxiety at the same time maintaining eye contact by just looking at someone's forehead, for example. Second great part, you handled volunteerism very professionally, especially there was one part when Ravindran volunteered himself and someone volunteered earlier than him. And you professionally informed him on the next part for him to try out on a more challenging task. So that was really well handled by a facilitator. And the third part is you understood the content, you prepared and presented it splendid, great elaboration, seamless transition, and with visual aids. Chef kiss. 2 areas of improvement. While doing webinar and presenting about a bit of body language, I would suggest to zoom out a bit so at least we can see the upper half of the body and let us know when you say jump, jump. And the second part I would like to suggest is prepare a slide to inform the audience on the notes. For example, they might need some notepad for notes taking, and also it's a webinar, encourage them to switch on the camera to boost engagement and connectivity with them. And to challenge yourself, I would like to encourage you to encourage the audience to turn on their camera, because during this webinar, I felt a bit awkward for you in certain parts when no one volunteered themselves. So that's a challenge for you, okay? So you're well prepared, handled volunteerism with full professional, and then understood what you prepared and presented it in a splendid manner. 2 suggestions, zoom out to see upper body part and prepare a slide to remind audience on some parts that they need to take care of. Challenge yourself to encourage the audience to switch on camera because it's a webinar. So that could help in connectivity and engagement. That's all from me. Back to you.
Thank you, Junho. Oh, I think a lot of things I can improve on from all 3 evaluators you're sharing. In fact, I think adding the video the non-written example part, I think that one is important as well. Like in lectures, some lecturers, they do add in videos to make people understand the concept that they're teaching. So yeah, I think this one is something I can improve on in the future. And also the prepare a slide for notes. This point is also quite good because I wasn't aware of this part as well. And in fact, I think I should have actually stopped at the slide and maybe tell audience, they can ask me to pause so that they can jot down notes if they need to jot down notes. So yeah, I think all of your suggestions are very useful as well. Like adding humor, letting the audience feel relaxed a bit. Okay.
Timer report. No, it's timer report.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yes.
All right, thank you so much, Joshua. So hi everyone. So now I will give the timing for today's Joshua webinar. So I will go by one from first session until third session and until Q&A and until the evaluation session. So first, I would like to give out the time report for the first session for Joshua activity. Joshua activity first session, your time taken is 9 minutes and 9 minutes. And Joshua and discussion and the sharing session for the first part is 11 minutes and 47 seconds. And Joshua activity first for the second session is 7 minutes and 19 seconds. And Joshua's discussion second session is 10. Your time taken is 10 minutes and 18 seconds. And Joshua first activity for the third session is your time taken is 7 minutes and 42 seconds. And Joshua discussion and sharing session for the third session, your time taken is 40 minutes and 29 seconds. And lastly, Joshua question and answer, or we call it Q&A session. Your time taken is 23 minutes and 28 seconds. Now moving on to the evaluation part. First, Toastmaster Zijun, your time allocated is 2 to 3 minutes, and your time taken is 3 minutes and 18 seconds. And second, Toastmaster Mingkang, your time allocated is 2 to 3 minutes, and your time taken is 3 minutes and 16 seconds. And lastly, Toastmaster Junhong, your time allocated is 2 to 3 minutes, and your time taken is 3 minutes and 28 seconds. So congratulations to the evaluation for not overtime. Thank you, and back to you, Joshua.
Okay, thanks, Nelson, for the timing report. I think there is no best evaluator today, right? Everyone is the best evaluator. But maybe some of you will say, I wish lah. Okay, maybe I'll pass to Elvin for closing speech, or maybe Zijun would like to do a closing speech.
Ginger, speak then I'll pass it to
you want to talk?
Ginger, say something. I was trying to say that I think quite a lot, and sorry, I wasn't able to on my camera because I have 2 meetings simultaneously. One is ISEC and one is this. But then basically the whole speech, I listened one earphone and my girlfriend was listening another one. So I'll be watching a recording later, and I listened the first 30 minutes of the webinar, and I would say that it's, I would still say the same, that it's our loss that to have your departure. Yeah, because with your experience that actually you can coach us a lot. And of course, I wish you all the best in your new journey, and I hope you to attend Motorola Toastmaster as well. And thank you, Junhong, also for becoming the external evaluator for Joshua. And I'll pass it to Zijun.
Thank you, Joshua, for providing a very fruitful webinar, and we gain a lot about how to improve about our speech, because I think the one thing is very new to me is like to observe lah. Talking the example I remember the most you talk about is like people use, what is it lah? Like we can easily find the things about ourselves, but we can't it's hard to describe others, so something like that. And then another thing, I think a bit new for me is about the expressing the emotion, the ways you do about it. Very thank you for writing and
welcome. I guess you will be joining the future contest, right, Zijun?
I will be the contest chair.
Oh, your contest chair. So I see. How about Elvin joining? Is it?
Yeah, I hope I join. But by the way, Joshua, did you prepare the feedback forms? Or I did, because did you send to the audience the feedback form? Or
I did not prepare the feedback form. I think but I did notice that you guys have this Google form where people register in it. Maybe I can prepare the feedback form later and can email to them to fill it up.
But it's okay also. we have 3 good evaluators. It's okay as well. Yeah, but I'll be joining a contest, hopefully. Yeah, I'm planning to join as well. Yeah.
Okay. All the best to you guys and in hosting the contests and
By
also
the-
joining the
By the way, if you want to